Hello, and bienvenidos to this episode of Voces, the official Hola at IBM podcast that brings our Hispanic and Latino communities of IBM together to share authentic, accessible, and informal conversations, amplifying critical leadership messages on culture, career, well-being, business, and technology. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast belong solely to those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of IBM.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to a new episode of Voces, donde tu voz importa. I hope everyone is having a lovely day so far, but hey, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of sad today because today we close. Yes, today is the last episode of our series for Hispanic Heritage Month, where we've been interviewing amazing Hispanic leaders at IBM that were featured on the Hispanic Rising Star book, and we've been sharing their stories with you. So I hope you've been enjoying the series as much as we did. At the end of the day, learning from other people's stories is always a great and beautiful journey. But hey, I'm also super excited because we have an amazing last guest who I had the pleasure to meet in person before, and I can say that she has become one of my favorite IBMers. But before we start, hello there. My name is Anthony Borges. You can call me Tony. I'm currently an IT automation technology seller at IBM, and I'm excited to be your host for today's episode. But enough about me. Sometimes I talk too much. So let's welcome the star of today's episode, Joanna Escanio. How are you doing today, Joanna?
Hello, Tony. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you so much for being here with us today. We love to have you. And as I said in my beginning, right, I really meant this. You have become one of my favorite IBMers because of your energy. And I'm happy to be in a position today where I get to highlight your story so you can now become the favorite IBMer of many out there listening to your story on this episode. So,
Thank you. Have become one of my favorite IBMers, actually.
oh, that's so sweet. Thank you so much. So let me ask you this, right, before we start. How do you feel today knowing that your story has been published on a book, which, by the way, has become one of the best sellers in their category on Amazon? So you're technically famous now, right? So tell us, right, how was your reaction when you got the news that you were going to be featured on this year's book?
To be honest, I didn't know how to feel.
Us?
When you submit your story, there's a limit of how many characters you can submit. And I struggled to really find a succinct story that I could share that could make an impact. Um, Once I chose it, I wrote it, I submitted it, and I was like, well, we'll see. We'll see if it's impactful enough, if it's, considered um, you know, as good enough to be included in the book. And then I heard that it was chosen. I was like, really? Like, what did I write? What did I write?
Oh my God.
No, but it feels great. It feels great. It feels still weird. Like I tell people, I'm like, I'm a published author. Did you know?
That's a fun fact, that now you can share with everyone for sure, 100%. And that's awesome, right? And I cheated a bit, right? I was able to sneak peek your story. And let me tell you, everyone, right out there listening to this episode, this is a fantastic and super inspiring story with a lot of depth, I will say, right? There is emotional highs and lows, and the themes will be around like self discovery, overcoming doubt, and really finding your purpose, right? So I'm excited today, John, that you're going to be here with us sharing your story today. But let's start, with a little bit about your background, right? How was your childhood, your relationship with your parents? How do you think that shaped the way that you approach challenges growing up?
Yes. So I am from Puerto Rico. I grew
Puerto
up in Puerto
Rico.
Rico. Yeah. So I was actually born in Ohio. Just by coincidence. I mean, that's where my parents were living at the time. But then at 2 years old, they were like, we have to move back to Puerto Rico. She needs to get to know her family. We need to be surrounded by families. So they did. And I grew up in Puerto Rico. So I was there from 2 until I graduated from university. So I grew up in a very supportive environment. My parents, awesome parents, best parents in the world. Um, Very encouraging, very loving. but they also, pushed me to excellence. Always. Um, I changed schools quite a bit, not because of behavior issues, just because they were looking for the best for me. So I'll say I started in a private Catholic school when I was little,
Mhm.
and then I went to a summer camp that was part of a public school, and I loved it. I felt like my whole world opened up.
Hello.
And I was like, I want to go to that school next year. And they agreed. They let me have that experience. So I went to that school, but that school finished at sixth grade, which was the grade that I joined for. So then I was like, What now?" And I had a music teacher in that school that actually suggested that I should um, audition and apply for a different public school, but it was specialized in music. So I did. I applied to that, and I applied to another public school that was specialized in art. And they actually heard back from the art one first, and they accepted me. I was like, I don't think I'm actually that gifted in art. So I was like waiting for the music, and they ended up accepting me, which was awesome. I
That's
did my middle school there, and I really enjoyed it. But then again, my parents were like, it's a good school, but I don't think it's challenging you enough
mm,
academically. So I was like,
right.
it's okay. So then I applied again for another school for high school that was specialized in math and science. And I got in, so that's where I did my high school. So again, changing schools quite a bit, but
What?
it was a great experience. I made a lot of friends along the way, and being in that high school, um, kind of that's where I kind of started looking into more math and science careers. I wasn't really sure where I was going to go with that. Um, and then I took almost like an aptitude test, and that's where engineering came out as a potential. I looked at the different engineering fields. I decided for industrial engineering, and that's what I went to study. That's my undergraduate.
That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And you said something when you were sharing your changes, right, between the schools, right? At some point, you thought that you were not as gifted for the school of art and music, right? So you started doubting a little bit, right, about
Yeah.
your worth, right? So could you share a little bit more about those feelings and how they influenced your sense of self worth during that time?
Yes. So, and I think I'm thinking a lot of people can relate to this, especially girls growing up, right? And the influence that media has over your sense of self-worth, and what you should look like, uh, and all of these things. So, so I think it was more on that respect, not from my family. It was more that outside influence over my life, right? So I'll share another thing. I wanted to be a model when I was little. But I couldn't see. I have curly hair for those that don't know me or haven't seen my picture. I couldn't see I didn't see any curly haired models on TV. So when I was in fifth grade, I told my mom I don't want curly hair anymore. And I ended up, chemically treating my hair to make it straight. And for that whole year, my hair was straight. But then towards the end of fifth grade, media changed and I started seeing curly hair models on TV. I was like, oh, I miss my curls. So for sixth grade, my mom cut up my hair like super short. We started treating it, and then my curls came back. So all of those like external influences and not seeing yourself in media, I think it's really impactful to kids growing up. And I know it was for me. Um, so that, right, not knowing if you're like skinny enough, right, or smart enough or talented enough. Like so I went and in the music school I played the viola,
Mm.
which is a string instrument, right? A little bigger than the violin, smaller than a cello, right? And I was pretty good, but I wasn't in love with it. And I was in the orchestra and I did my classes, and I never really, fell in love with it. I could get encouragement, practice, you'll get better. I don't think this is my thing. But I really loved to sing.
Nice.
But so I was in the choir, but every time it came for like auditioning for a solo, I would get so nervous that I would not do well. So I would not get the solos. Right. And again, it goes back to that kind of confidence, believing in yourself. And I think it's just a struggle. I'm not sure where it comes from. I
Mm.
I know there's like external experiences and just, you compare yourself to others around you, and you don't really understand at that age that everyone is struggling with something that they don't love about themselves. Right. But you don't know that. And you look at these other people and you think, oh, they're perfect.
Exactly.
And I'm not. But you don't know, right? They probably are looking at you and saying the same thing. Oh, I wish I had their hair, and I wish I had their smile or their eyes or whatever it is that you're feeling self-conscious about.
Absolutely, right? And for whoever is listening out there, right? I don't know if you need to hear this, but you are enough, okay? Period. You are
Yes.
enough. Yes, 100%. And in your book, you also mentioned that back then in 2010, you learned about a special opportunity, a program at IBM. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Yes. So actually, a shout out to BRGs.
Nice.
So BRGs is what we call in IBM business resource groups, and it's the groups that kind of cater and make sure that minorities within IBM feel welcome, feel included, feel valued and seen. So back then there was the women BRG, and they hosted this event talking about the corporate service corps. And I actually could not attend the event, but I had seen the flyer and I saw the name of the person that was going to talk about their experience. And it intrigued me so much that I actually ended up reaching out to that person that brought the talk. And what it is, it's almost like a corporate Peace Corps.
Mm.
If you're familiar with Peace Corps, right? So it's IBM's way of giving back. So it was a very interesting model because it was a program where you would spend a whole month overseas at whatever country you get assigned to. It's a country that's considered, um, like in development, third world country, however you want to define it. And it's almost like an alliance between IBM and that uh, place's government and a local non for profit. And
Nice.
the local non-for-profit would select projects that they needed help with. And they would present those to IBM, and then IBM would put together a group of employees, IBMers, to work on that specific project that that country needed help with.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. And I don't know if that program still exists, but I would love to participate. You know?
So it still exists, but it has been very modified. So it's now more on a local level. So if you're located in that location, then they have projects that you can do for a more extended period of time, but less focused in a day to day.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like there's a program that is kind of focused on like philanthropy, leadership, business development, right? So what
Yes.
was what was it about this program that really spoke to you? What sparked your interest especially?
So many things. First, I love to travel and I love to learn about new cultures
Let's do it.
and
Love it.
yeah, going to different places that I've never been. So that was the first thing. The second is I'm very passionate about volunteering and giving back. Um, it's I think we're called to do that when we've been blessed with so much that it's important to give back, to turn around and give back. So that was another aspect that really attracted me. And then the other aspect was really getting to know. other IBMers from different parts of the world, and getting to know them and their perspectives and their culture. Um, and then I guess the last, which is not less important, but I think less important for me at the time, was the opportunity to get, some leadership opportunities and growth for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And how was the application for that? What was the process? Do you have to consult this with your manager? How did it work internally?
Yeah, so you had to let your manager know that you were applying for the program. And then the application was a series of short essays, answering a lot of different questions about yourself, about your background, your experience, right? A big thing is they don't want people to just apply to the program and be there because they want to travel just for that, right? They want people that have proven in their background that they are people that are involved in volunteering and giving back. So this is not just a new thing for them. Um, and you have to answer, questions about that and your skills, and your experience in the business as well.
Absolutely. And you got full support from management to go ahead and submit your application that I need to step out for a whole month abroad. That's kind of a difficult conversation to have with management. How was that conversation?
You have to be completely honest and sincere with your management when you're talking about an opportunity like this, and really explain what the benefit will be for them when you come back as well, right? For the business. Um so yes, I when I presented it to my manager, she was very supportive. She also shared that she had actually been part of the program. So she knew exactly what I was applying for. She did give me a little bit of a warning that made me hesitate for a short period of time, where she said that she actually had applied once and didn't get in, and then she applied a second time, and that's when she got in. So she almost told me, like, don't expect to get in the first time.
I see. So you started like second guessing after that conversation a little bit about your decision.
I I did. You're thinking, oh, this is a manager, right? She has more influence, more experience. And she didn't get in the first time. Maybe I won't get in the first time.
Yes.
So it made me a little doubtful, right? But I also knew, and at that time, I did know that I was a really good writer. Um, I'm I really love writing essays, which I don't think is popular. It's a common thing for people, but I do. I enjoy writing. So I knew that I could express myself very well in my writing, in my application. So I felt pretty good about it. Still with, that doubt, that little voice in your head that tells you, maybe not. But I decided to go for it,
Absolutely.
and
And how was
and I
that,
got it the first time I applied.
congratulations. I love that.
Awesome.
Of course, you're awesome. Of course. But how was that, the waiting time, the waiting period when you submitted your application and you were waiting for the results? What was going through your head?
Excruciating. It was, oh my god, yes, I don't remember, I mean, it's been 14 years. But, I don't remember how long it was, but I do remember that I was like, "Oh my god," uh, just so nervous about it. And one of the things what you did in your application is you had to choose in order of priority, geography. So you couldn't choose a country, but you could put, like, in an order of rating, geography where you would like to go. And I had put Africa as my first, ranking,
Mm.
hoping to get Egypt.
Oh, wow.
I don't I don't even know why. I don't remember, my thinking process back then, but I do remember that I had chosen Africa as my first option, hoping to get Egypt. And it worked out that way.
Amazing.
God was
It
hearing
was
my
meant to be.
prayers.
It was
Yes.
meant to be, of course, 100%. working in a country like Egypt, for example, right, especially with underprivileged communities, right, must have been very impactful for you, right? So, how does this interaction shape your understanding of what it means to be enough? Because now you're going to be in front of another reality, right?
Yeah.
So, can you share a bit about that?
Yes. So before you go to the country, IBM gives you almost like a what's the word? Like a training to really understand their culture, like a cultural awareness training,
Mhm.
and how to dress, the clothes that we need to pack, how do you address people, etc. So you do get that, right? Still in my mind, you have this intrinsic biases in you. So I just in I thought that we're gonna be super, super serious people for some reason. And then I get to the country and it was not that way at all.
Oh,
But before I get to that, I also want to say, and I applaud IBM for doing that. They did not tell us what we were gonna be working on until we got
mm.
to the country.
Oh, wow.
And
Do you know
and
why?
the reason is because they don't want you to start working on the project without really meeting the people and learning what they actually need. Talking about biases, right? Because you may come from this background, right? I live in the US. I'm used to all of these different things, right, that are at my disposal. And I can craft a solution for them that really does not work for them because they don't have all of these things, right? And they don't necessarily need them either, right? So whatever I may think is the best solution is not really the best solution for them. It doesn't work for them. So that's why they didn't give us the projects beforehand. They didn't want us to work on them until we actually got there and understood what their situation was, which I thought was great.
Yeah,
It also impacted, our timeline because now we really needed to like focus and work on
for that.
while we were there, right? Long hours. It brought me back to my university days, just staying up to like the wee hours, just working on projects. Um, but it was amazing. We got there. We got to Cairo, the capital of Egypt. Um, and the first few days we just did like the main you know touristy things, right? We went to the pyramids and we went out to eat. We went on a cruise. It was really, really nice. And then we actually took a flight to Cairo. Sorry, to not to Cairo, to oh my God, Aswan, Aswan, which is where we were actually uh for. And that was very different, right? Aswan from Cairo. So much hotter and less city like. Um, and that's where we were for the rest of our time there.
Nice.
And we also took a bus to two of the communities that we were helping. One of the communities had actually received some help from the government many years past, and then they kind of had left there forgotten. So some structures had been built, but they were no longer working, things like that. The other community was a nomad community. So didn't have any structures, right? And the government didn't even know how many people lived there because kids were being born, they were not being registered, etc. So two very different communities, two very different needs. My team was working on water, which um, you can't get any more impactful than that. Water is
Yes.
life.
We're 70% web.
Well, yes. Oh, how to get clean water to these communities, how to get water for their animals, how to get, um, just water to work for their houses, wherever they lived. Um, we were working together with the other teams within our team. And, one of our teams was working on like ecotourism. So if we were to build like an ecotourism resort in one of these communities, how do we promote that, to bring people in that not only want to stay there, but want to contribute to the community. And how do we get water to them? And do we limit the amount of water that those people can use and things like that? So it got very, very cumbersome,
Mm.
very intricate, and very outside of our comfort zone. Um, None of us were experts in those things. So we had to reach out and get experts and consult, and we even partner up with Johnson and Johnson um for one of our solutions. I mean, it was an amazing experience. But definitely, you get there, you see the faces of these kids, and by just showing up, they like lit up, right? This huge smiles. They're just so excited that you're there. Uh,
Absolutely. Yeah, no,
it gives you this fulfillment, like immediate fulfillment, right? That you're, oh my God, like we need to do something for them, right? And we need to do something good that will last. So
absolutely.
it was it was amazing.
Yeah, and it's super cool, right? And I think you mentioned that, right? That IBM offers this type of opportunities for their employees, right? It really shows that here at IBM, we don't only develop like great technology, but great people too, right? Giving this type of opportunities to use our resources to help communities that they might not have access to what we have here in America, it's really awesome. And now that you move forward in your career journey, what do you hope to achieve next? As you how do you keep that sense of purpose alive in your day-to-day at work?
Good question. So I still get very much involved in outreach and community service and giving back. So I'm very much involved in my local church, where we do a lot of that. But within IBM and within like the IBM ecosystem, I do a lot of volunteering. So one of the volunteering I do every year is during Engineers Week, or E-Week, as we call it. And I go to at least 5 schools every year, where I go talk to students of all ages about engineering and about what they could achieve, their potential. And one of the main things for me is to go to local schools and for them to see me as someone they could relate to. Right? There's a lot of Hispanics in the area that I live, and a lot of girls that don't think that that's for them. So I make it a point to make sure that the girls understand we are awesome, and engineers need more women. They need our perspective, they need our background, they need our collaboration perspectives, they need our empathy, and they just need our insight, right? And our teamwork capabilities. It's just it can't be a man's world.
Absolutely. And on that note, right? If someone out there is listening to this portion of it, right, and they feel like I'm not enough, right? What is one thing that they can do today to start changing that narrative for themselves?
Just start loving yourself. Start appreciating everything about you. Everything that makes you different is for a reason. Um, you are made just like you are because you are needed just like you are.
Oh, that is beautiful. I love that. Joanna, your story is incredibly powerful and super inspiring. And I think it's a beautiful reminder, right? That sometimes the biggest growth that happens, right, is when we push through our doubts, right? And we step into the unknown, right? In your case, to Egypt, right? So
Yeah.
your experiences prove that we are all enough just as we are. And that purpose often reveals itself when we are open to new opportunities and perspective. Thank you so much for sharing such a personal and transformative journey with us today. I'm sure it will definitely resonate with a lot of people out there listening to your story through this episode. And for you on the other side of the screen, thank you so much for tuning in and remember to stay inspired. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Joanna, for being part of our last episode of our series for Hispanic Heritage Month. Till next time, bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Voces. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube and Spotify channels. You can find us as Voces so you don't miss any new episodes.